That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about the fuck this movie
Keep going. Don't let go.
Don't Let Go.
It's called Don't Let Go.
The title. There's a really good film. It was a 2011 Never Let Go with Keira Knightley and Charlotte Rampling.
But that's not this film.
That's not this film.
No, this film is called Don't Let Go.
The title starring David Oyelowo and Storm Reid, both who are Ava DuVernay alums. Selma and A Wrinkle in Time. And they're a really good supporting cast.
Are you okay? Do you need some milk?
Get him some milk. Mykelti Williamson, Alfred Molina, and Brian Tyree Henry.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is this film being released?
It's being released August 30th, courtesy of Blumhouse Tilt. And it was directed by Jacob Aaron Estes, who was notable, his 2004 directorial debut, Mean Creek, about a bully that gets a comeuppance, which I remember quite liking, was a Sundance favorite, I think. Was a big deal. He directed The Details in 2011, which was a Sundance film that was acquired for a lot of money and then flopped hardcore at the box office, if I remember correctly, starring Tobey Maguire. Then he wrote Rings, which you saw.
Okay.
The Rings, and now he's written this film.
Called Don't Let Go.
Don't Let Go.
Right, which is a suspense thriller.
Mm-hmm. Sci-fi suspense thriller. It's a time travel movie.
It's a time travel
They
movie.
steal your babies.
Yes. So David Oyelowo plays a detective.
Yeah.
Or cop, law enforcement with the LAPD.
Mm-hmm.
His family, his brother, his sister-in-law, and his niece are murdered, which is devastating. Shortly after their murder, he receives a phone call from his dead niece.
I want to see this movie about Jennifer Hudson's family. Is that bad to say?
It's insensitive. I don't know why you bring that up.
I don't know either. That just came to mind, though. What if they called around it?
Wow. So his niece calls her.
His niece calls her. They're dead. He's in his feelings and
he's grieving. He understands his niece is dead, but he receives a call from her. Of course, he thinks he's going crazy, but he does some things to kind of prove it to himself that this is really happening. And basically, he attempts to prevent their murders by communicating with her.
Except that she is unaware until very late in the film that the version of the uncle she's talking to is 2 weeks in the future past her death.
Right. So it's a time travel zombie. Well, not zombie.
No, not zombie.
The undead. Anyway, it's an interesting film. So overall, I did like this film. I think the acting is great.
Yeah, Oyelowo and Storm Reid are very good because they do the impossible in making the silly scenario. You actually end up kind of having feelings about them.
It definitely has some
there's some investment in them.
Yeah, I mean the story is pretty ridiculous. I think whenever we're dealing with space-time continuum themes, it always gets murky because there's always a point where it just doesn't quite connect, and then there's a lot of explaining to do, and that part was tedious. So the second act of the film was difficult for me to sit through. Yeah,
it does kind of
it drags
in the middle.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Frequency since it came out with Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel. That was in 2000. But I remember liking that, but again, I was a child. So, that movie's the same concept, except that they use a ham radio in that one, and in this film, it's a cell phone. But the wherewithal of how this is happening and the frequency of cell phones and how, it's not explained at all, or to a degree that's satisfying.
Every time travel film I can think of, there's always some ambiguity that makes it.
Usually there's at least a conversation as to the characters trying to deduce how this is happening.
True. And in this one, there isn't. So it's just taken for granted.
This is like Black Girl Magic.
Wow.
That's... what this movie's doing.
So ultimately, he is able to save his family by preventing the death of his niece through a series of events. So the third act does pick up. It is thrilling. Again, the acting is very strong.
Yes.
So we do feel invested in these characters. I think because the acting is so strong, I didn't need it to include time travel. I think this could have just been a corrupt cop.
It could have been a great neo-noir.
Thriller, neo-noir, and would have totally been satisfying. It's the time travel that made it tedious and
because you have to go through
frustrating.
These motions.
Yeah.
And
it makes it more predictable.
Yeah.
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 Because we know in the end, most likely, everything's going to turn out great.
Well, then time travel is such a jarring kind of dramatic catalyst. I feel like I'm always going through my head, okay, it's like the Lake House. It's like About Time. It's like
I feel like there's I have to pay attention and keep notes and catalog what's happening to go back.
Yes, and there are some muddled moments in this where because he's shot at Oyelowo is shot at one point, and then they go through the motions and the niece dies again and he isn't able to save her in time, and then it goes back, and there's not enough that's explained.
There are a few blips that are confusing, which make the time travel element more convoluted. Mm-hmm. So that is the weakest point for me. But I think the quality of the acting, and I think the storytelling in general, minus the time travel, is... Yeah,
I liked the score a lot. I know Ethan Gold...
I don't even recall music.
There's this... I noticed it kind of petered out a little bit, but there's this really creepy refrain. It feels like a circus sideshow. This tinkling that you hear that I thought was pretty good.
Okay.
I don't know. I liked it. The look of it's a standard Los Angeles kind of...
Which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt rich.
Yeah.
Having read so when I initially read the synopsis for the film, I giggled thinking it would be ridiculous, and assuming the quality would not be as high as it is. But it definitely surprised me in a good way. Yeah,
again, I think David Oyelowo and Storm Reid really elevated quite a bit
for sure. Has this person made the director?
Yeah, I just went through his filmography.
You did? Okay. I was distracted by behavior. What have I seen?
You've seen Rings, which he wrote, did not direct.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I would only give this film 2.5 stars just because I think the actual story is a little weak.
And again, the supporting cast is fine. You didn't like Alfred Molina.
But he's sort of...
I thought he was kind of good until
integral
until the very end. He's got a couple scenes, when they're in the evidence room and Circle of Trust. I don't know. I found him mildly entertaining.
I feel like he provides the most mild comic relief. That maybe was a little distracting to me.
Yeah, that could be too. But
yeah, I would give it 2.5 out of 5 stars.
I think 2.5 is fair. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
No.
All right. We're going to get Nick some milk. Bye.
Bye.